Hey there, wrote some stuff down on a whiteboard. So I'll kind of break this down real quick. This is kind of our high level of calories and macros, or macronutrients as well. And there's also micronutrients and stuff too, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll just talk about calories. So kind of a very simple breakdown. Think about calories. Calories are going to control your overall weight, right? So how many calories you take in per day is going to dictate how much you weigh over long periods of time. So think about calories over like the course of weeks or months, right? Not just because you drop your calories for one day doesn't mean you're going to drop a bunch of weight, right? We want to make sure that we're dropping like your average calories over long periods of time if we're trying to lose weight, or we're trying to increase your average calories over long periods of time if we're trying to gain weight. So calories, think this is how much weight we're going to go up or down based on the day. So calories are broken up into, for the sake of this conversation, we'll just talk about macronutrients, or some of the common term you'll hear is macros. So macros are going to kind of dictate like the distribution of the weight. Like, where does the weight go? Is it more muscle? Is it more fat? Where are we putting this, putting the weight? So we're going to talk through like kind of simple breakdowns of stuff here. One of the reasons why we kind of talk through macros, and your proteins are your build and maintain calories. So this is going to go to kind of building your frame, muscle, bones, all that kind of stuff, right? Think of your carbs and your fats as fuel calories. So carbs are more kind of geared toward performance. We use carbs and they get stored in the form of glycogen in the body. Fats are going to be kind of more dictate kind of lower intensity, kind of like exercise or day-to-day activities, hormonal function, lubricates the joints. So all of these things have like equal good features. And I'm going to kind of go through a little bit more some examples of these in a second. But one of the reasons why I like to kind of talk through macros is if we were kind of look at two different people, like person A and person B, let's just say they're both theoretically on a 1,000-calorie diet, okay? We would normally never put someone on a 1,000-calorie diet, but for the sake of the numbers, it just kind of makes it a little bit easier. So I just want to kind of distinguish between like kind of your building and maintaining calories of proteins and your fuel calories of your carbs and fats over here. So we have person A, we have 1,000 calories. Let's say they're taking in about 50 grams of protein. Each gram of protein is about 4 calories. So we're looking at about 200 calories of your build and maintain calories, or your proteins, right? Which means you're gonna have around 800 calories of fuel. So these are like a combination of your carbs and fats. We will distinguish what does what and that kind of thing. But so we've got 800 calories of fuel that's probably being stored, whether it's in the muscle or fat in this person's body, right? Now we have person B, who has also 1,000 calories. They have upped their protein to 100 grams per day. So times 4 calories, we have 400 calories of protein. So these are your build and maintain calories again. Now this person will only have 600 calories of fuel per day, as if they're having 100. If they stick to their 1,000 calories and they're having 100 grams of protein, that means that they're having around 600 calories of fuel, that combination of carbs and fats. So we have two people having the same amount of calories, but a different distribution of calories. One person is having 800 calories of fuel, one person is having 600 calories of fuel. This means this will be stored differently in your body, okay? And then also it's gonna break down to like how many carbs and fats you're having, because that'll be a topic of a different conversation. But carbs bind to water. Sometimes people retain a little bit more water in there, but it also gets stored in the muscle. Carbs can get stored in either like liver in the form of glycogen, or muscle in the form of muscle glycogen. So now let's circle back over to here. So if we look again at proteins, kind of your more pure protein is going to be like something like a chicken. It doesn't have much fat or carbs in it, very minimal depending on what kind of what piece you're having, whether breasts typically less fat. So we'll kind of talk about some like combinations here in a second, but so you've got like, we'll say kind of a more pure example. Protein is chicken. Carbs, you have a couple differences. For the simplicity purposes, we'll kind of break it down into kind of starches. Think of like rices, potatoes, oats, those kind of things, right? We got like kind of your sugars, fruits, candy, sauces, those kind of things, right? More pure like, now there's different types of sugars and that kind of stuff as well, but sugars are a little bit more faster digestion. They're more kind of broken down to what the body can absorb quickly. And then you also have your veggies. Veggies are very low in calorie. They're still kind of typically under more of like kind of a carb source. Very low calorie again. Obviously very important to have in your day-to-day. And this is where kind of like some of the micronutrients come in. that we're not really going to talk about, but most of those are going to be found in veggies. And then we have kind of your more pure fats. So like a perfect example of this would be like oils or butters or that kind of stuff. Fats make things taste delicious. They're a little bit higher in calories per gram. They're about 9 calories per gram of fat. So sometimes it's really easy to go overboard on fats. Oils and stuff like oils or avocado, those all great things, but we don't want to go like super overboard, because you can have like a ton, like you can have like a tablespoon or two of oil, and it adds up to like 100, 200, 300 calories sometimes really quickly. Same thing with like nuts and seeds and that kind of thing. Like a serving size of almonds is like 8 almonds, and it's like 200 calories, so it gets like really overboard really quickly, right? So we don't want you to be like scared of fats, but at the same time, most of the time, if you're getting like a good amount of protein in your diet, protein usually has a combination of fat in it. So things like steak and eggs and stuff usually have like fat marbled into it, or like, so it's going to increase your fat count, or typically like a saturated fat. So this is going to make things taste a little bit better when protein is mixed with fat. You're going to have like a little bit better tasting protein sources than just kind of like bland chicken or chicken breast or something like that, or turkey breast. Another kind of combination of protein and carbs would be something like, an example would be like beans. Now beans aren't like purely protein. Yes, they have protein in it. And same thing with nuts too. Like some nuts have a decent amount of protein in it, but they also have, nuts are kind of falling into that like protein and fat category. So protein carbs would be something like beans or lentils or something like that has like, a good proportion of both carbs and fats, carbs and proteins in it. And then finally you have something like carbs and fats. Now an example I kind of use almost like cheat food. Carbs and fats are tricky and very slippery slope to combine together, because they're like everything that's delicious. So I always think of like pizza and ice cream, combination of fats and carbs, delicious, really easy to ingest a lot of calories when you're having just fats and carbs. So you always want to have like some type of balance of like proteins, fats, and carbs in a meal. So everything kind of like tastes good. We're getting some of those performance calories, or maybe some micronutrients in veggies, but also like the fats kind of help things like kind of taste good, go down, and help with like healthy hormonal function, that kind of thing. So this is just a quick high level of all like calories and macros. Again, you're going to probably hear this a lot, and it's helpful to have some like context to what you're doing and why you're doing it.